but things just happen in business, right?
Yeah, things just happen. And like I said, people don't expect you to be perfect. Most people don't expect you to be perfect. They expect you to do your best and to be transparent, and to be upfront. So communication is very important. I give some really specific examples in the book about the different amounts of time and how you should reach out to people. I also talk about the right and the wrong way to apologize, when it should happen, how it should happen, the 5 components of a proper apology, because so many people have this like weird perception that you should never apologize, which in fact, like the opposite is true, right? Like, would you want to be in a relationship with a person who never apologized even when they were at fault? Of course not. So like, why would you want to work with a company that refuses to take responsibility or own up to something that has failed to meet a customer's expectations?
This is the Alden Report.
I'm super excited about our latest program. Look, we've been on television for close to 20 years, literally selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of products and services that have had a positive impact on people's lives. We've created millionaires. If you've ever watched television, you've most likely seen me on television, not dressed like this, but in a suit and a tie. Listen, we've re-engineered the process. We're allowing people, a small group of people, whether you're an author, whether you're a business coach, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you have a program or a service that you feel as though that can have a positive impact on people's lives, and you want to up-level your game. You know, you're tired of what's going on social media. You're tired of AI is not kicking in. You're tired of all the money that you spent and you're not seeing any return. You're tired of all these fraudsters out there that tell you they're going to put you in Huffington Post or USA Today or Forbes, and it's nothing just but a joke. You want to be in front of millions of people every single day all over the country. Folks, we've been doing it for 20 years. We've re-engineered the process. We've made it possible for the average everyday person to participate in this. If you want to up-level your game, if you truly want to build your profile, if you truly want to get in front of millions of people every single day, send me a direct message at Mike Alden. See it on the bottom of the screen. At Mike Alden, put TV in the message, and I will get back to you personally and see if you're a good fit for us. Again, send me a direct message at Mike Alden. Send me the message TV, and we'll see if you're a good fit.
This is the Alden Report.
All right, my name is Mike Alden. We are here in Blue Bay Studios. Of course, I have my 99-cent glasses. I don't have a hat on today. It's a little bit warm out today compared to what it was a few days ago. A few days ago, it was like minus 11 here in Massachusetts. But things are warming up. I am super excited for my next guest. My next guest is a motivational speaker. She's a keynote speaker. She's also the best-selling author of a book. By the way, if you know anything about me, I'm into books. I'm into selling books. I'm into promoting authors. Her book is called Creating Superfans. Now, look, if you're on social media, because you probably are watching this and listening to this, everybody wants to know, how do we create superfans, especially if you're not like already famous? Well, my next guest is Brittany Hodak. She has written the book. She shows you how to do it. She's doing it. She helps other people do it. And by the way, if you've also followed me on social media, I talked a little bit about her book, just how awesome it is. And I'm super excited to have her today because she's going to show us how you can create super fans. Brittany, thanks so much for being here.
Yay. Thanks so much for having me, Mike. I'm thrilled to be having this conversation.
So I don't know if you saw the video that I did with you, and it was funny. I had a senior moment, and I was like, I was going through your book, and I was like going through the stuff, and I was holding this thing up, and I was like, and then she's got one of these things. It's kind of cool. Like, what? Oh, a bookmark. That's what this is. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how'd you get involved in this whole, kind of branding world and helping people, kind of build their brands and create, what I call, fanatics.
Yeah, well, I grew up working in the music industry, and I got my first job at a radio station when I was 16 years old. I worked for record labels and music magazines and entertainment agencies, and I was always fascinated by fandom. What it was that made some artists have these like enormous followings, while others would have smaller, like cult followings, but still super loyal. And then others would just fail to launch. Like a label could spend a ton of money and they could have all the best producers, all the best marketing, everything, but the artist would just sort of never take off. And, like many people in the music industry who try to figure that out, I was looking at the numbers, I was looking at, what I knew to be true. And what I found happening again and again and again was that the artists who had not only the fastest ascent, but also who had the most loyal fans over time were the ones who connected to their fans, the ones who tried to invite fans into their story, who made it a mission to get to know their fans as much as they were hoping that their fans would get to know them. So they connected their story to their fans. And I saw this to be true over and over and over again. And it makes sense on a human level, right? Like, of course, fandom is a two-way street. Of course, we want to feel like we matter to the people and the things that matter to us. And as I progressed in my career, I started doing more and more brand deals where I would work with, like a big CPG brand or a big retailer or a big tech company to sponsor a tour or an album launch or a product release. And I started to see that the exact same markers for fandom in pop culture are true in nearly every other vertical. So we want to work with companies, we want to promote and, support products that we feel like care about us and are aligned with the things that we want and the things that we care about. So this sort of two-way street, this two-way directional exchange of information, I started to see it again and again and again and everywhere. So I went back to grad school. I got a master's degree in marketing and consumer behavior, and I just started studying and reading everything I could to try to understand fandom in a way that I could create a framework that anyone could use, whether they were a solopreneur or somebody running, a 100-year-old brand. Like, what is it that you need to do? What are those steps that you need to take? What are the boxes that you need to check to go from being a potential commodity provider in the minds of your prospects and customers to a category of one, to that partner that they trust and they love and they want to work with again and again. So this book is that effort for me to say, like, if you want to create super fans, here's what you got to do.
As a marketing guy, I'm just fascinated by this topic. And again, people listening right now, they fall into that, entrepreneur business people listen to the podcast. It's pretty much, kind of who we cater to. And one of the first instances for me where I saw fanaticism with a brand was NASCAR. I'm not even a NASCAR guy. And for my first book, I actually wrapped a NASCAR, not in some just obscure like dirt track. Like it was actually the Sprint Cup series, and I did it a dozen times. And I was just so blown away by the fans in NASCAR and their fanaticism and their loyalty to the brand of NASCAR. And then you see all these people that are buying sweatshirts and hats and all this other gear wearing brands, major brands, Tide and that's the first one I can think of, and Winston back in the day, and Sprint and all this other stuff. And they're just wearing brands, and they're walking billboards, and the cars themselves are walking billboards. Do you talk a little bit about that? Did you study NASCAR? I don't know if you did, but for me, that was the first time, and I was like, wow. I feel like I understand it, but what are your thoughts on NASCAR?
Yeah, well, NASCAR is a great example, and it is something that I've studied. I've worked with several NASCAR brands over the years, teams and drivers, and you're right in that people, they want to be a part of it. And when I talk about super fandom in the book, I talk about the fact that the number one threat that everybody has to be overcome, like whether you're a brand new business, whether you've been doing it for decades, the number one threat that your business needs to be aware of and have a plan for is apathy. People who just don't care, like they don't care enough to care. They could be apathetic to your category. They could be apathetic to your brand, but we are all so busy. There are so many messages coming at all of us all the time. And what NASCAR has done a really great job of over, the past several decades, and what there's this halo effect for all of the brands and all of the properties that are associated with NASCAR because of this fanaticism, because of this fandom, is they have connected their story and rooted it in the lives of their fans. It's become a lifestyle. As you said, people want to wear those brands. They want to, they talk about the drivers as if they know them, as if they're family. They name their kids after them. They, write songs about them. Like, it's become part of the culture. And it's a really great example that regardless of what it is that you do, regardless of what you're selling or you're marketing, you can make it relevant and you can make it come alive to people if you focus on the experience, because people don't buy products or services anymore. They buy the experience that they're wrapped in. We're living in an experience economy. And as somebody who's been to NASCAR events, like, it is an experience. You go there with your family, with your kids, you're going to have a great time. You're going to meet drivers. You're going to get to, see crashes. You're going to get to, have all of these experiences. So yes, they're an example of an entity that really understands making their brand come alive and be relevant to the people that, are experiencing and interacting with the NASCAR brand.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that experience part too, because I had never even been to a NASCAR race. Like I said, I'm from New England. It's, there is a racetrack up here in New Hampshire, but it's not a thing really up here. And when I went to my first race in Daytona, my first ever NASCAR race was the Daytona 500, so the Super Bowl of NASCAR. And the experience, yeah, like you said, granted, we were sponsoring a car, so it was a little bit of a special experience, but the access that fans actually did get to the drivers and the pit crews and the cars themselves, I found it really, really interesting that a lot of people, almost all of the fans, had some sort of that access, and they could feel like they're a part of, or they're, like you talked about earlier, they were connected to those people. That's so important, right? In that kind of real life scenario. But now we're in this world of social media and Instagram and TikTok, and who knows what's going to be the next one, right? And you mentioned earlier about getting people's attention, and that part really is also something that I study. So how does one really connect in the world that we're living in with their fans? And then also we'll get into, like, people that aren't famous, that aren't, NASCAR drivers, but how do you really connect with people on social media? Like, what are the kind of the key elements to truly trying to connect with your fans?
Well, the good news is that it's the same whether you're famous or not. And it really comes back to that connection. So in the super model, which we can go through it's sort of a 5-part framework, but the S, super is an acronym. The S is start with your story. And when I say start with your story, I don't mean lead with your story, like try to tell your story to everybody. I mean, you've got to get very clear on what it is that you are the best in the world at. Like, what is your superpower? Who do you exist to serve? How are you making their lives better? Because, everybody wants super fans, right? Like, if you think about it on the surface, like, do you want super fans? Of course you do. Like, everybody wants loyal, enthusiastic advocates who are going to come back and tell their friends. So why do you deserve them? Like, what is it that you are the best in the world at? What can you do better than everyone else out there in your space? And why does that matter to the prospects and the customers you're serving? And if you don't know the answer to that, then you're going to have less than optimal results in everything that you do, because you don't have that foundation. You don't have that framework.
Sorry. So what if I don't? What if I'm not super at one particular skill set? Am I dead in the water, or do I develop those skills? Or what if I'm just like okay at stuff? Can I still build a brand? Can I still build fans, or do I have to really figure out what I'm really great at? I mean, look. There's, I don't know, 7 billion people on the planet, and everybody can't be great at something.
I would beg to differ. I think all 7 billion people on the planet
Let's go. Let's hear it.
Absolutely have a uniqueness that no one else has, right? Like, you are the absolute best at being Mike, right? You're the one and only Mike Alden. Like, I'm the one and only Brittany Hodak. So we all have this uniqueness that gives us a lens through which we look through things that's different from anyone else. So I talk about customer experience. thousands of people talk about customer experience. There are, so many people who can get up on stage and talk to you about why customer experience is important and why it matters. But the lens that I talk about customer experience through is this idea of creating superfans and drawing parallels between the entertainment industry and every other industry on the planet. And that makes me talking about customer experience different than somebody like Shep Hyken, who I love and adore, who wrote the foreword to my book. When he talks about customer experience, he's talking about creating moments of magic because he's a magician. So, everybody has a uniqueness. Everybody has something to offer and something to give. And so when I say what you're the best at or what you're great at, it doesn't have to be like something that's measured with stats. Like it doesn't have to be like you're LeBron James, right? It can be you're the best at helping people find the right place to live in your neighborhood because you've lived in this neighborhood your entire life. You love it. You know it better than anybody. You're so passionate about it. You know the names of all of the business owners and everybody who's like, doing cool stuff. Like you're the one who's going to help people get connected. Everybody has a gift. Everybody has a purpose. And if you get clear on what it is that makes you unique and special, you will attract people who want and need that versus just trying to like chase trends and like follow what you see everybody else doing. Because, having 1,000 like super loyal fans who adore you is more valuable and more fulfilling than having like 100,000 followers who sort of like know who you are, but also sort of don't care.
Man, you was what we would say here in Boston, wicked smart. No R there.
Oh, thank you.
Again, we're on with Brittany Hodak. She is the author of the book Creating Superfans: How to Turn Your Customers into Lifelong Advocates. The book is available everywhere, but you can also just go to her website. It's Brittany, and then her last name is Hodak, and she's doing something special. When you do go there, there'll be a little link somewhere on our page where you can actually download a couple chapters absolutely free just for listening to the Alden Report. So make sure when you do that, you maybe send her a little note on social media. She's pretty active on Instagram as well, and give her a nice little thank you. And, maybe let her know that you heard her on the Alden Report. Again, you can just go to her website. It'll be in the notes as well. It's Brittany Hodak, Hodak.com. So, you said that everybody, you said you big, and I loved your response. Everybody's, I'm the best version of me. Like nobody can be me. Although the guy behind me was laughing, he thinks he might be better than he bet you a better version of me. But so nobody can be me. I get that part. And then when I was listening to you, I think of a scenario. I'm a big fan of just talent, like any sort of talent. I don't care what I love. Like I'm like watching America's Got Talent, and I love watching these videos on TikTok and Instagram, and it's just amazing the talent that people have now, and then how they can display this to people. But what I've also realized, and having worked with musicians actually as well myself, we didn't talk about that before. Early on in my career, talent isn't enough, right? So that connection you're talking about is important, but talk about the importance of talent, or the not so important part of talent. Like, because some of the musicians I've been around, to me and others, they're like the greatest you've ever heard or seen, and there's so many of them like that, and they never break through. Is that just because they're not connecting, or is there a certain element of luck in there? Like, what's really going on?
There's a certain element of luck. There's also a certain element of uniqueness, right? Like, you watch America's Got Talent and you see somebody and they go up and they sing an Adele song and it's beautiful and it sounds just like Adele. Like, we don't need another Adele, right? We don't need somebody who's going to be like the 5th best cover singer of Whitney Houston songs that season. And that's why with, all of those sort of America's Got Talent and The Voice. And American Idol, so many of those people like win the season and then they go away. And the reason they win the season and go away is because they haven't connected their story. They haven't done a great job of showing you why they matter to you beyond that like hour of entertainment on a Tuesday night. So you're like, yeah, this is filler. This is great. This is like something fun to watch. And maybe I'll even vote, but like, you don't care after the show ends, because then the next season has, all of the other people coming up behind them. So if you want to find success, you've got to make people care about you beyond the confines of that show. That's that apathy that I talk about. People will care just enough to like watch you for an hour, but then they're not going to buy tickets to see your show in Vegas. They're not going to download your album. They're not going to say like, yeah, I'm going to go out of my way to find out when this person is on tour in my city. So you've got to give people a reason to care. You've got to like hit them in the face with a reason to care. And I always say, and I've said it a couple times already in this episode, that super fans are created at the intersection of your story and every customer story. Like when those two halves of the Venn diagram become a circle, what is that overlap? Why is what you do relevant to the lives of your prospects and customers? How can you give them a better existence on this planet by giving their time or attention or money to you? And when you can figure that out, that's when you become relevant. That's when you're like, oh yeah, like you're gonna watch me beyond this show I'm competing on, or like, you know, beyond the like 3-minute filler that, you know, you're hearing my song on the radio while you're driving from point A to point B.
You know, it was interesting too, as I'm listening to you, when I think about, well, the statement you said earlier about, you know, it's greater to have 1,000 people who are super fans versus, you know, 150,000 that just kind of know about you. And years ago, when I first launched my first book, I wasn't that active on social media. I was just busy building businesses, but I felt like I had to. And I bought followers. I've talked about this before. I bought followers for this, not because I was trying to look cool, but I needed followers in order to post a link on Instagram. And this was, I don't know, 10 years ago, right? And now my followers are going down. I've had a few of my friends who are Instagram experts. They're like, Mike, what's going on? There's 2,000 people dropped off in one day. I go, well, no, I'm deleting them on purpose because they're not real, right? And I don't want them there. And my ego is big enough as it is. I don't really care. But spend a little bit more time on that statement, because I think so many of us, and by the way, and I know a bazillion of them, they get the fucking blue check mark that's made up. They got 1 million fans that's all made up. Their comments are fake. Their likes are fake. Like everything about them is fake. And I wonder what they think about at night when they put their head down on the pillow. Like, is it serving them? Does it make any sense? Those ones, we'll go down that rabbit hole in a second. But talk about the real importance of having that small group of people, because I think people want to be famous too, right? And so if you have 1,000 fanatics or super fans, you could have a great life, build a great business, and you don't necessarily have to be, you know, Britney Spears or something, right?
Yeah, and you know, fame is an interesting beast. And you and I have both worked with plenty of celebrities. I mean, we've seen sort of the upsides, the downsides, everything in between. There's a quote that I love from Albert Einstein, and I'm pretty sure Albert Einstein was talking about Instagram when he said this. I think this was like a blue checkmark conversation that he was having. And he said, not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. And I think
Hold on.
in
Wait.
a world,
Let's say
he was
that
talking
again.
about Instagram, right?
Let's say it again.
Obviously.
Just say that one more time. I want to.
Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts.
Okay.
And I think on social media, it's easy to fall into the trap of caring about the things that can be counted, caring about those metrics. And like you said, people want to game the system, and like everybody out there can, you know, buy likes, can buy followers, can buy engagement. And you're right. Like, what purpose does it serve? And if you're doing it because you just want to look cooler and you want to like trick other people into thinking you're cool enough to follow because 50,000 other people follow you, even if they're not real people, then I think that says something about the character and integrity and motives of the person. But also it tells me that you're not giving a lot of credit to the people that you're trying to attract, and you're thinking about the numbers and not the humans behind those numbers. So social media has made it very easy to like look at numbers, not because those numbers are good for creators, but because those numbers are good for advertisers, right? They're not necessarily good for the creators. They're certainly of no impact or interest to the actual customers that you're trying to attract or followers that you're trying to attract. So yeah, I think that quote from Einstein is one to keep in mind, is like, don't fall victim to like following the numbers to the detriment of like forgetting what matters, right? Like don't see the trees and not the forest, or vice versa.
You know, when you talk about connecting, my next book, the title of it is called Connection Capital, and there's a lot to that, and the true human element, even from the biology of connection, and when I think about connecting with people, there's this word that everybody likes to throw around, especially on social media, which is authenticity. Like everybody tries to say that they're authentic, and most of those people that are saying they're authentic are liars. But talk about the importance of authenticity as it relates to connecting with people.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that authenticity is one of those things that has become very manufactured. But again, like people see through that, right? And so it's I was just having breakfast with a friend a couple days ago, and we were talking about this mutual friend from our past, and she was like, yeah, you know, I had to unfollow her and block her because like I was just like, who is this person you're pretending to be online? Like this is not your real life. Like I was with you this morning. This is not how that went. And I think eventually people figure out and they lose interest because again, that apathy kicks in. And apathy is the number one thing that you have to fight at every single stage of your relationship with a customer. You've got to force them to care over and over and over again. You've got to prove that you are deserving of whether it's their attention, their time, their money, whatever it is. You've got to continually connect your thing to theirs in a way that resonates. And if you're not being authentic, that like at some point apathy is going to just kick in because people are going to be like, either I'm confused because the authentic version of you this month is different than the authentic version of you last month, or it just feels it feels confusing or irrelevant. So yes, authenticity matters, but I think understanding your customers, which that's actually the U in Super, is understand your customer story, getting clear on who are you best positioned to serve? What are they struggling with? What's the transformation that they're looking for? You know, how can you help them? If you have that as like your North Star, then you're going to always find that it's easy to connect your story to theirs because you're super clear on what makes you unique. You're super clear on what it is that you can do to help them. And then that helps you create experiences that matter. That helps you create content and moments that are going to connect because you know what it is that you can do to improve the lives of someone else.
All right, in a second, I want to get to what the P is because Superfans is the title of Brittany's book, Creating Superfans, How to Turn Your Customers into Lifelong Advocates. As somebody who's been in business for close to 20 years now, I think, yeah, something like that. It's always been a struggle for us. We've had millions of customers and generated hundreds of millions of sales, and I've always struggled. We always struggle to try and keep our customers engaged and turn them into what I call zealous advocates. And you know, she's talking about the same thing, super fans. We're going to talk about what the P means in a second. So if you'd like some more information about Brittany, if you want to pick up her book, first of all, her book is available everywhere. You know, I skimmed through it. I haven't read it, and I talked to her a little bit about this, and people know that. So because I'm honest and authentic, but the book itself, first of all, is like a work of art. Okay, so there's that part of it. So it's available where books are sold everywhere. But you can also just go to our website, which is Brittany, and then her last name is Hodak. On her website, she is actually giving away several chapters or a couple chapters of her book just for listening to the Alden Report. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to get some some free chapters, you don't have to. You can just pick up the book everywhere. But if you are in business and as somebody who has been in business and has millions of customers, turning them into advocates is one of the greatest things you can do in business, because then when you shut off the media, which people don't talk about a lot, when you stop spending money attracting new customers, those customers can create a lifelong business. So again, if you want some more information about Brittany, check her out at her website. There'll be a link down below, and also, of course, pick up her book. All right, so what's the P in super?
P stands for personalize. And, you know, we're living in a world, not even just social media, but everything else, where we no longer accept generalized information. Everybody wants to be treated like an individual. Everybody wants to feel like the only customer that whoever they are giving their money to cares about. And, that's no longer like a nice to have. It's just the cost of entry if you want to play the game. So P is personalize. And, the best way to personalize your offerings, your experiences, your interactions is by doing exactly what I talked about before, connecting your story to your customer story. Because when you do that, when you're clear on who you're serving and how, then it becomes very easy to serve up the right content to the right person at the right time, which is the P, personalize.
Is that scalable? I mean, can we scale personalization?
It absolutely is scalable. And there's so much technology that exists. And, oftentimes people think it's one or the other. It's like high tech or high touch, like everything's got to be automated or everything's got to be, you doing something. And in the book, what I talk about are the systems that you can put into place to use both of those things to scale, things where technology is involved. Some examples that I love, that a couple that I mentioned in the book, is when I get my fitness report every week from Fitbit, and Fitbit is personalizing that entire email to me, right? How many steps did I take? What did my sleep look like? How many days did I exercise? What was my resting heart rate? But it's a template, like they're personalizing it to everybody else as well. So on one end, it's that. And on the other end, I got a postcard in the mail about a year ago that said 9 out of 10 people who believe they have penicillin allergies do not. And you can come take a 10-minute test and find out if you're allergic to penicillin. And the reason it's important is because penicillin is one of the cheapest, most highly effective, most widely available prescriptions on the planet, or antibiotics on the planet. And if you're allergic to penicillin, it knocks out like this whole category of drugs. And I know that was a personalized message to me because it was from an allergy clinic that is affiliated with the hospital system where I had both of my sons. And I, was always like trying to remember how to spell penicillin to write it on every single intake form. So if I had gotten a postcard in the mail that was like, hey, we do allergy shots, I would have like immediately thrown it away. But they didn't send me something that said, hey, we do allergy shots and also allergy testing. They said 9 out of 10 people who think they have a penicillin allergy do not. Come find out in 10 minutes if you do. So using the information you have about people, whether it's first party data, whether it's, not first party data, personalizing and contextualizing what you share to land in a way that's relevant with them. And you can do this at every stage of your customer's journey, right? Like you can do it before, during, and after they've actually interacted with you. And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be crazy stuff. It can be like, I live in Tennessee and like we have Walmarts everywhere. And so I have Walmart Plus. And every time I open the Walmart Plus app on my phone, it tells me how many hours that I've saved by having Walmart deliver all my stuff to me and how much money that I've saved and how long I've been a member. It says, like, hello, Brittany, thanks for being a member since whenever. Like you've saved 483 hours and however many dollars by being a customer. So reminding people of that value that you add to their lives in a personalized way, thanking them for being a part of what it is that you're doing to help them feel like they're part of this bigger thing is something that's always going to land, always going to work. And again, helps you go from that potential trap of being a commodity provider where they're like, yeah, I care about you just as long as you're the fastest or you're the cheapest or you're the most convenient. And going into that category of one of like, well, I would never even think to price shop or rate shop this person or this company because I already have like the best in the world. Like, why would I be looking for another solution when I've already solved this problem?
Again, as I said earlier, you are wicked smart. I feel like I'm getting my PhD in marketing right here, just listening to you. But here's the thing about the guests that we bring on the Alden Report. For those of you who have listened to us for years, we bring real people doing real things, and building real businesses and also helping out people. But the other thing about Brittany in particular is she actually subscribes to her own stuff. Sometimes I even forget about the stuff that I've written about in my own books. I have sometimes to check myself. Because when I got her book, which is again right here, I think it's like a work of art. Look what I had here. I had a personalized handwritten note. She subscribes to her own methods, but I want to ask Brittany a question about this. We're talking about technology, and kind of innovation. And everybody wants automation. Everybody wants to be able to just automate everything, and nobody really even wants to. I mean, what I'm seeing for a lot of the younger generation, like nobody wants to get on the phone anymore and talk to anybody. Nobody wants to do a Zoom. They just want everything to be automated. But talk about the importance of what you did for me and what others can do with their brands as well. You know, like real, like just not like non-technical stuff, the stuff that has worked since the beginning of time, like a handwritten note. Now in schools they don't even teach cursive. I don't even know if my daughter can even write in cursive. I mean, I they're not even teaching anymore. So talk about what you did here for me, and also and what you've done for your book for others, and why that really works, because it worked for me. And you told me you were sending me the book, and it was sitting on a desk for a couple of days, and I forgot about it, and I opened it, and it made me feel special. I'm just being honest, right? Talk about that and spending that little bit of extra time, and why that's important for businesses, and also just creating, like I said, these advocates that you talk about in your book.
Well, thank you for all of those kind words. And, you know, I think the thing that all of the best business owners know and have known since the beginning of time is there's no such thing as a small thing, right? The thing we think of as the small things are the big things. And when you have the ability to show someone that you care, to show someone that they matter, that you're taking the time to interact with them as another human, like that is worth more than anything else. Like you can't buy Superfans. You can't pay people to love you. Like nobody ever became closer to someone by like paying for an ad or spending money on something, because it's about human connection. It's about human emotion. So there are no small things. Like the small things are sometimes like the biggest things. And using automation to clear up more of your schedule or free up more of your time to focus on those things that can't yet be automated is like the number one tip that I hope people take away from this book, is how you can work with technology. Because I firmly believe that like within our, I don't want to say within our lifetimes, within like the next 30 to 40 years, automation is not going to replace most entrepreneurs and knowledge workers, but those who embrace automation have already and will continue to replace those who do not. So you're not going to lose your job to ChatGPT, but you're
I don't know.
damn sure going to lose business to other people who are smart about the way they're utilizing ChatGPT to free up more time that they were spending on tasks that now they don't have to do, to use their same 40 or 50 hours a week that they're working on other things that ChatGPT and Dolly and everything else like can't do yet.
Yeah, for those who don't know what ChatGPT is, we're talking about AI, artificial intelligence. I still think it should be artificial stupidity on some stuff, because I'm not necessarily fully sold on it. Although, like you said, we're paying attention. We are using it. We do use it and stuff. We use it in a lot of the stuff, our emails, our text messages, and we play with it a little bit because we're paying attention to it. So regardless, and you just basically said this, you need to make sure you're paying attention to this stuff, because you will, in fact, get left behind. Whether or not you get replaced is a whole nother story. All right. I know you don't have a ton of time. I want to get to the E and the R. What's the E in Super?
E is exceed expectations. And in the book, I talk about the fact that, you know, in this experience economy we're living in, everyone has an experience with you. Every customer, whether you're selling them something, whether they're following your content online, there is an experience. It's not, will there be one or not? It's, is it an intentional one that you have architected with purpose, or is it a haphazard one that's going to just sort of be like left to chance? So in the book, I talk about this idea of intentional experience design. And this becomes more and more important as your team grows, as you have maybe not just employees, but also like vendor partners and outside parties who are helping you do things. You've got to create an environment to where the experience with you is predictable and everyone is in alignment and on the same page about what it means to do business with your brand, because your brand is not your logo. Your brand is not what you say it is. It's not the content that you're creating. Your brand is what your customers tell their friends about you. Or maybe they don't tell their friends about you. And that's also a problem, right? Like that goes back to the whole apathy thing. But creating an intentional experience, architecting a plan that everyone can follow, because, you know, a couple of things I talk about in the book. One is the fact that like, there are very few 3-star reviews, right? Like nobody like takes their time to be like, yeah, this was okay. Like, meh,
Right.
all right. It was fine, right? We don't do it online, and we also don't do it in real life. We're not like, yeah, like I ate at this new restaurant, it was okay, right? Like unless somebody specifically asks you about that restaurant, because there's too many restaurants, there's too much time, there are too many things. And if you go to, let's just keep with that analogy, a restaurant, if you go to a restaurant and it is amazing, and then you go back 3 days later and it's just okay, or maybe it's bad, are you going to roll the dice and go a third time? Or are you going to be like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know which one of those was the exception and which was the rule, right? Maybe you'll try it a third time, or maybe you'll be like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's because like a different chef was there. I don't know if it's because like the food was, you know, like not delivered as fresh. Like you just don't want to go back. So consistency is so important because your brand is what you repeatedly do. So finding ways to exceed your customers' expectations, to be consistent in doing that is a really, really key thing that as especially solopreneurs or new entrepreneurs grow and scale, you've got to create the systems and processes to make sure that you're going to exceed your customers' expectations every time.
Yeah, I love all of them so far. I think I can guess the hour. I don't know what the hour is, but I want to guess the hour in a second. But you always hear about you want to underpromise and overperform, and when I get things or the things that I buy or the services that I engage in. Maybe it's just because I'm a marketer, but I really pay attention to when one of my credit cards, right? They every year they send me like a really nice gift. It's it's one of those credit cards you have to pay to be in and whatever, but I'm always excited. I'm like, I wonder what they're going to send me this year, And in fact, I got a pair of aviator glasses, not 99-cent ones. I don't even wear them because they're too expensive. And it makes me feel good. And guess what? I'll probably be a lifelong advocate of that credit card and run up my balances and pay interest and do all that other stuff. It's exactly what they want me to do. But they made me feel good. They gave me that experience, and they exceeded my expectations. Let me ask you this though about the expectations. I know we're bumping up against the time, but what happens, because this just does happen in business. I was just talking about this with somebody earlier, when unfortunately, because life happens, those expectations are not met. What do we do? Can we fix it? Can we repair? Which I think is the R. Well, it's not R, but I think the R. I think I know what the R is. But can we repair the relationship if the expectations are not met?
You absolutely can, but you have to do it in the right way. So all of the chapters in my book are named after songs. And there's a chapter called Back to Good, which of course is Matchbox 20 reference, that talks about something called the service recovery paradox, which is exactly what you just said. And how do you get it back to good when things have gone a little bit sideways? And what this service recovery paradox, which is something that has been studied and proven to be true again and again, going back 30 or 40 years since it was first written about, is that when someone's expectations are not met, if you can come in and correct it quickly enough and in the right way, over time, they become an even more loyal customer than customers who never had their expectations unmet, who never had something that falls short. And it's called the service recovery paradox. And so like people have asked me like, oh, does that mean I should try to like mess something up to fix it? Very interesting. I would love to see studies around that. I do not suggest that. But what it means is people most of the time in most situations, and of course there are outliers, but like if you are not a brain surgeon or a pilot or, an air traffic controller, people are not expecting you to be perfect 100% of the time. They're expecting you to do your best, to do everything within your power, to have things go the way they should. And when they don't, to have their back. to fix it, to apologize, to look for a solution, and to get things back on track. And when you do that, when you show like the humanity and the people behind the processes, you have the opportunity to create a more loyal customer, because they're like, oh, I saw how they acted when the shit hit the fan, and like they had my back and they took care of things. So the service recovery paradox is very fascinating. Where I thought you were going to go with this question is everybody taking ownership of all of the things and saying like, well,
That
that's
was
not
my
my
follow-up.
problem. Like, that's a different department. Like, it's not up to me. And there's a story that I love that I actually have in the book. I talk about when we went to Legoland for the first time. I've got 2 little boys. We went on vacation last year to Legoland, and we stayed at the hotel in Florida, and my kids were obsessed with this elevator. And like, there were 2 elevators that would take you up to your guest rooms. They had floor to ceiling Lego decals, and there was a mirror ball and disco lights. And when you would close the door to the elevator, like the Bee Gees and ABBA would play. Like, it was so fun. It was like a legit disco dance party, tiny little elevators, one family at a time. My kids would just like lose their minds dancing, even though they'd like never heard any of these disco songs. I didn't realize until our 3rd or 4th day at the resort that was the slowest elevator I had ever been on in my life. And not like metaphorically speaking because of like the dancing, like literally it took like 2 minutes to get from the lobby to the 5th floor. And it took me 3 or 4 days to notice, because they had taken something that would have been annoying, which was like this very small, slow elevator, and they had created an experience around it. They had turned it into something that my kids looked forward to and like wanted to be on for a long time. So right now, every single business, especially solopreneurs and small business owners, have slow elevators, right? There's things that it would be very easy for you to throw your hands up and be like, well, I can't replace the elevator, or I can't make it go faster. And maybe not. But when you empower every single person on your team to become an experience architect, to look at things through the eyes of your customers and find creative ways to solve problems, you can turn those slow elevators into disco dance parties. Like, you can take something that would be a negative experience for your customer and turn it into a neutral one, and maybe even a positive one, with a little bit of creativity and a little bit of attention to experience design.
I mean, I think you kind of said this, but how important is communication in that scenario where the expectations aren't met? How quickly do you need to reach out and let the customer know? I've always been a proponent of it. I just, when things don't go the way they should, nobody likes it. Nobody wants to have the conversation, especially if you're the one who's providing the service or the product, and things just like you said, the shit just hits the fan. We do our best to try and be proactive, try and get ahead of it, and just let them know, hey, this is what's going on. How important is that in trying to get ahead of it, and also just being honest with the situation? Because I think sometimes too, businesses and especially individuals, they'll look at it like it's some sort of weakness, like they're inadequate or what have you. But things just happen in business, right?
Yeah, things just happen. And like I said, people don't expect you to be perfect. Most people don't expect you to be perfect. They expect you to do your best and to be transparent, and to be upfront. So communication is very important. I give some really specific examples in the book about the different amounts of time and how you should reach out to people. I also talk about the right and the wrong way to apologize, when it should happen, how it should happen, the 5 components of a proper apology, because so many people have this like weird perception that you should never apologize, which in fact, like, the opposite is true, right? Like, would you want to be in a relationship with a person who never apologized even when they were at fault? Of course not. So like, why would you want to work with a company that refuses to take responsibility or own up to something that has failed to meet a customer's expectations?
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for spending so much time. We're actually not going to get to the R. Look, if you want to know what the R is, it's real simple. What you can do is you go to BrittanyHodak.com.
No, I can tell you the R.
No, we're not letting them know. I don't want them to let them know about the R. We don't want them to know. They can listen. I'm a direct
All
response
right, so you
marketer.
just got soup. You can create Superfans if you listen to this podcast, but if you want to turn them into Superfans,
all right, listen, it's up to you. You're the marketing expert. You want to tell them what the R is? Let's go. Let's tell them about the R. I wanted to leave them hanging.
Well, here's the deal. For anybody who was like, wow, 5 things, that's a lot to remember. It's actually 20% easier than that, because the R is repeat.
I was wrong. I was
You,
wrong
you
about
thought
PR.
it was what?
I thought it was going to be
Prepare
relationships, but we were
for
kind of talking about
relationships?
relationships. But yeah, so
So
I mean, the whole thing is about
super,
relationships. But yeah.
you
So-
can think of these as like nesting dolls, like every single one builds on the one before. So the 5 together, it's start with your story, understand your customer story, personalize, exceed expectations, and repeat. And the reason that the 5th and final one is our repeat, customer experience is not a set it and forget it. It's not a one and done. You can't like design something one time and be like, I did it. I figured out the customer experience. It's amazing because your customers are constantly forming their opinion of you. They're constantly forming, the experiences that they're going to tell people about based on these interactions. Everyone on your team is in the experience department. Every interaction is the most important interaction. I love this quote by Elizabeth Arden: repetition makes reputation and reputation makes customers. So R is repeat. In the book, I go into all of the systems and processes that you can use to automate some of the things, delegate some of the things to create these consistently remarkable customer experiences. But that's it. That's the R, repeat.
Well, hey, listen, you are a branding marketing expert, so I left it up to you. So again, I want to thank you for being here. We've had Brittany Hodak on. If you've made it this far, which I hope you have, look, she knows her stuff, and we haven't. I wanted to spend some time about the book and how she designed the book. Maybe we'll have to do that on another episode, or maybe we'll do some sort of bonus stuff later. But look, if you're in business, if you're starting a business, if you're thinking about growing your business, this book, if you've listened up until this point, is super, super important. I do know the importance of having lifelong customers. People talk about the lifetime value of a customer, and how do you increase that lifetime value? How do you maintain that lifetime value? What are the things you need to do? In Brittany's book, Creating Superfans: How to Turn Your Customers into Lifelong Advocates, she talked about it. Again, I haven't read it yet. I tell you this, Brittany, I'm being straight up honest right now. I can't wait to actually read your book. I don't actually read a lot of books, and I sell a shit ton of books. It's what we do. I don't even read a lot of books, but I'm so excited to actually read your book. 1, because I'm a marketer, 2, because I'm an author, and 3, because it's just a pretty book. So I'm really excited. So listen, if you like some more information about Brittany, you can just go to her website, which is Brittany, and it's HODAK.com. You can check her out on Instagram as well. You just Google her, but also her book is available where all books are sold. Here it is right here. If you're watching right now, Creating Superfans: How to Turn Your Customers into Lifelong Advocates. It's a book that I'm really super excited to read. Notice I used the word super at the end. My name is Mike Alden.
Mike. Well done.
That's Brittany Hodak, and we'll see you soon.
I'm super excited about our latest program. Look, we've been on television for close to 20 years, literally selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of products and services that have had a positive impact on people's lives. We've created millionaires. If you've ever watched television, you've most likely seen me on television, not dressed like this, but in a suit and a tie. Listen, we've re-engineered the process. We're allowing people, a small group of people, whether you're an author, whether you're a business coach, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you have a program or a service that you feel as though that can have a positive impact on people's lives, and you want to up-level your game. You're tired of what's going on social media. You're tired of AI is not kicking in. You're tired of all the money that you spent and you're not seeing any return. You're tired of all these fraudsters out there that tell you they're going to put you in Huffington Post or USA Today or Forbes, and it's nothing just but a joke. You want to be in front of millions of people every single day all over the country. Folks, we've been doing it for 20 years. We've re-engineered the process. We've made it possible for the average everyday person to participate in this. If you want to up-level your game, if you truly want to build your profile, if you truly want to get in front of millions of people every single day, send me a direct message at Mike Alden. See it on the bottom of the screen. At Mike Alden, put TV in the message, and I will get back to you personally and see if you're a good fit for us. Again, send me a direct message at Mike Alden. Send me the message TV, and we'll see if you're a good fit.